Okay, welcome to the Woodworking and Small Boat Studio for Barn. We're one of 11 studios here in the building. My name is Jeff Williams. I'm the studio lead for the Woodworkers. I am one of 9 people who manage the studio at this point. We have a steering committee that runs things. So our point here with the orientation, which lasts about 40 minutes, is to show you what we have to offer you, and then show you what we expect of our members when they're in the shop. So what the studio can provide for you: first and foremost, a safe working environment, large floor space, clean and well-equipped shop, and we'll get into the tools that we have here in a moment. Classes and training from the beginners to the advanced. We have started out with a 13-week course, basic woodworking, intro to woodworking. This is a 2x4, we hold it up, and there we won't go on from there. But we also we'll have other classes. They're out right now doing a class on finishing and stains. They did a class last week on chair restoration. We've got a class in the boat bay out here on building a strip kayak. We work every Saturday morning, several of us. And so we're moving into other areas of woodworking that we were not able to explore over at Rolling Bay. We have open studio hours, 30 hours a week. In this studio, we have a consumables budget, so you don't have to bring glue, you don't have to sharpen blades, and you don't have to bring sandpaper. We supply all that to you for open studio time. There will be material fees attached to classes, but for open studio work, those items and clamps and so forth are provided. And we have quite a bit of open studio space, as you can see. The floor space is 3,500 square feet in the main shop and 1,050 square feet in the bench room. What we expect of you when you're working in here. So as far as tools go, only qualified and trained personnel are to use the equipment. You'll be going through a safety training 1 and 2 class if you haven't started that path already. No member or guest will use any machine they've not been certified to operate by a safety instructor or a shop monitor. Always seek instruction before using an unfamiliar piece of equipment. Some of you are experienced woodworkers. You've used bandsaws before, but you haven't used our bandsaws before. And things, as you know, with machines have personalities to them. So we want you to be comfortable with our equipment. All members and guests will operate machines in a safe manner, and you will not disable any of the safety features. So we don't take the guards off the table saws and so forth. We have an array of portable power tools available to you: biscuit joiner jigsaw, belt sander, portable planer, hand planer, various nailers and pinners in different gauges, power drills and power drivers, a huge selection of clamps. We spent over $7,000 just to buy clamps to outfit this shop, and there's several racks over there on the other side. And some of the clamps are specific to boat building, some are specific to furniture restoration. We have several sharpening systems. We have grinders, a Tormac system, and some whetstones, of course. And we really divide our grinding and our sharpening into 2 different areas. One of them is in here for hand tools. Another one is out via the north wall where all the lathes are. It's for sharpening gouges and skews and so forth for the lathe work. You don't bring the gouges in here and sharpen them on this system. You don't take the chisels out there on their system. They use different systems, they use different degrees, they use different apparatus to sharpen with, and with the lathe equipment they use what they call CBN wheels, and you can't put certain kinds of metal on the CBN wheels, so you have to learn where you need to be working with different systems, and we'll help you with that. We're very fortunate to have some Festool in here. Festool is a German manufacturer, very high-end, very expensive. And we've been able to get some of their sanders, a track saw, one of their routers, a domino machine, which does mortise and tenon joining, and we have one of their extractors. It's a very high-end vacuum that has a HEPA filter on it, and it will actually filter out things like, even drywall dust. So it's very efficient when it comes to sanding and pulling the dust out of the air, and we're very fortunate to have those, and we will be getting some more of that equipment as we can afford it. We have several major power tools. We have 2 drill presses. We have 2 joiners, an 8 and a 16 inch. We have 2 planers, 15 and 25 inch. All the joiners and planers have helical heads on them, and for those of you who aren't familiar with that, it's a head where all the teeth on it are in a spiral formation. It runs very fast, they're very sharp, and they stay sharp, and they're smooth and they're quiet, and they give you a really nice cut. They don't come standard on the equipment, they're retrofitted after the fact. We have two table saws, a 30-inch and a 52-inch. And again, for those not familiar with table saws, we use SawStop technology, which is an electronic system, has a module built into it that they advertise you can't cut your finger on it. And I've seen them work. They do stop as fast as they say they do, and without breaking your skin or breaking the skin of a hot dog, which is what they play with. But when they go off, they can ruin a blade. So we will train you on how to use a SawStop. Because it works on moisture, you can't use wet wood in it. And so the moisture content is critical. You can't have any metal in your wood, so we don't allow you to use any restored lumber. You can't pull that old board off the barn and come in and cut it, because we won't let you do that. It has metal fragments in it and so forth, and you can absolutely set off the module on a SawStop table saw, and every time you do that, it costs us over $100 to reset the machine, replace the module. We have two miter saws, a 10 and a 12-inch scroll saws. We will have a second one soon, so we'll have two of those, two routers, a shaper, oscillating spindle sander, disc sander, edge sander, stroke sander, wide belt sander, 37 inches wide. That large planer and that large belt sander allow us to process slabs for those of you who want to make a new dining room table or a coffee table. We have a line boring machine, 21 heads on a line boring machine. So some of you want to know what is that? Well, we build all the cabinets here in barn, in the building, in 6 months and 6,000 hours of volunteer time. We built all the cabinetry that you see in the building. We used a 32 millimeter European cabinet system. So you've all seen it at Lowe's and probably in your own kitchens and at Home Depot, and you see all the little holes in the sides of your cabinets that the shelf pins and the drawer slides and so forth fit in. All those holes had to be drilled. So a line boring machine will do that in groups of 21. And we use that to do all these cabinets in here. And the beauty of that system is it allows you to change out from doors to drawers to shelves, and you never have to re-drill the holes. So the hardware is designed to fit in this system, and you can change from one to the other. And the reason we did that is because the studio's designed, custom designed, all their cabinetry in the building before we got to the point of building it. We started last January. But as they settle in, they're going to change their minds. So we're able to leave them open like this, put shelves in them. We can come back if they decide they want drawers in there, and we can come back and retrofit those with drawers without having to tear the cabinets apart or re-drill them. Really a cool system. We also have vertical and horizontal mortising machines that you'll see out here on the floor. So pretty complete. We do have some restricted tools, the big planer, the sander, a couple of these other ones you see up here, the shaper and so forth. Those are restricted. You won't get those in your safety training 1. You'll get them in, some of them in 2, and then there'll be some other classes for the other ones. These are high-speed, dangerous machines. The shaper out there spins at 10,000 RPM with a 4-inch disc on it like that, and it's kind of open, so we really want you to know what you're doing before you get your hands near it. They're dangerous pieces of equipment, but if you're going to build chairs for your dining room set, because you're going to have that slab table, those are the things you use to cut that curve in the back leg of the chair. Use a shaper. We have 6 lathes out there. You'll go through separate lathe training and certification before you're turned loose on the lathes. Even if you're an experienced turner, maybe you turn spindles, but you don't turn bowls. So we want you to understand how our particular lathes work, and we have a variety. Most of them are jets, but we do have a large Powermatic and a Nova lathe out there. So these are a little bit different. The Nova lathe with the right attachment can turn up to a 29-inch bowl. So we have some pretty significant capabilities. So studio expectations, obviously safety, no alcohol or medications while you're here on the floor. You always put the safety of yourselves and others first. Dress appropriately, long hair and long clothing. And if you see an unsafe condition, report that to the shop monitor immediately and let us help you take care of that. So we do have safety policies in place. Eye protection is always required. Hearing protection is highly recommended. And then respiratory protection is also highly recommended, and we'll get into that in a minute, what we can do for you and what you need to do for yourself. You need to provide your eye protection We have hearing protection out there. We have muffs you can put on and foam throwaway earplugs. We supply those to you, and you can use them to protect yourself. Emergency response, we've got first aid kit, an eye wash station, obviously fire extinguisher, so forth. Barn provides first aid training periodically, and you're welcome to take the classes. They're free. We will have an AED in the building shortly. So approach, and you want to know what approach means. Kind of an odd term to have, but when people are working on equipment, you need to not startle them. Don't walk up behind them and ask them what they're doing. Get in their peripheral vision area. Stand still, let them know you're there. They'll look up when they got a minute. Don't touch them or bother them when they're shoving that piece of wood through the table saw. So approach is important for safety. Don't want to scare anybody and have something go wrong. We're a community wood shop, and you're sharing space. Just like tonight, we have a class going on out there in stains and finishes, and we're sharing space because we're in here. This is great. This is an acoustically separated building, double pane windows. We're all sharing equipment and sharing space. So there's going to be some times where we're going to ask you to maybe not turn on a system for a few minutes because they're doing a lecture over here, and then when they go to turning on the lathe, then we can turn on the dust system. Music. We don't allow music in the shop. Some people like to have their hearing protection and they got their little radios in them. The reason we don't allow music or anything in your ears like that is you need to hear us and the monitor in case something's going wrong. You also need to hear the machine. If you're used to listening to a machine and it has a tone to it, and then one day that tone's different, operation you're doing causes that tone to change, the machine's trying to tell you something. I'm unhappy, you're doing something wrong, you need to hear that and stop. You can't do that if you're listening to your country music. We do allow earbuds in here, in this room. Hand tools, you're working on cutting your dovetails in here, wear your earbuds to your heart's content. Food, right outside in the hallway, there's a kitchenette with a refrigerator and a coffee maker, and you're welcome to put your lunch in there. And then we have a commons area out here where you can eat. We don't allow any food in the main shop. We ask you not to bring any food in the bench room, but when we have classes like this or once a month presentations, we probably will have coffee and donuts in here, but not in the main shop. You'd be surprised how many people leave their coffee cups sitting around and we find them a week later as they leak onto the table of a piece of cast iron. Not a good thing. Finishing. So we don't have a finishing room in this studio. We're in a neighborhood environment. We have congested parking. So if we were spraying out there, we would be pumping fumes into the neighborhood and getting little speckles on your car. So we don't allow any spraying. Wipe-on finishes and brush-on finishes are allowed, and you can do that in here. And we have craft paper to put on the tables or on the floors if you're going to make a mess. So combustibles, you're welcome to bring in stain for a project, and if you're going to be in here working on a project for several days, you can keep the stain in the little yellow cabinet out there. Self-closing doors for flammable liquids. Put your name on it, just like you put your name on your yogurt before you put it in the refrigerator, and then take it home when you get done, because we only have so much space. We'll accumulate things. We have a waste can, that little red can down there at the bottom. We want you to use that. If you're wiping on stains with petroleum-based products, we don't crumple them up and put them in the trash can. We don't stick them over in the corner. That's how we burn the building down. We're not going to do that. So we have a waste can. You put them in there, self-closing lid. We take it out every couple of days and we put it in the dumpster. If we get spontaneous combustion and we burn the dumpster down, we don't care. The dumpster's in the far corner of the parking lot. We don't want to burn this building down. So please adhere to the safety on disposable rags. So keeping the studio clean. But when you're working in a space, when you get done, sweep it up, clean the glue off the table, put the clamps back where they belong, put your measuring tape back where it belongs, put your pencils back where they belong. If you come in to work an open studio and somebody trashed the shop, then you're looking for things and you can't find them where you know they should be. So everybody has a hand in helping to keep the studio clean. Clamps are separated by size and type, and they're held on some big racks, and the racks can be moved around. They're on wheels, so we can take a whole rack of clamps over to the boat area when we're working on the boat. And that lower right-hand picture was when we did the comb, which is the cockpit for the kayak. There's over 50 squeeze clamps on that thing, so you can't have too many clamps. You all know that, right? That proves it. We used them all, and we went out and bought some more, believe it or not. Dustpans and brooms are available. We recently changed the lathe area. It has its own trash can because they make a lot of chips that go on the floor. And so we, rather than just suck those into the dust system where they get mixed up with all the other garbage that we suck in there, we put those chips in a big can, and then we take them out and we dump them in the garden, and they use them for mulch out there to help our garden grow. We have 2 disposable bins. One is marked for solid wood, one is marked for plywood. The plywood goes in the dumpster because it goes in the dump. It has resins and glues in it, and you can't burn it in your fireplace, and you can't mulch it into your garden. The solid wood, it goes and gets mulched up, and then you go down to Tilts and you buy it to put in your garden. So we do recycle. Classes. We have a variety of classes, and we're spinning that up as fast as we possibly can. Obviously, we have safety tool classes at the beginning. So we do orientation, power tools 1 and 2, the advanced classes on the other things, and then we get into some special classes on mortising, shapers. We have a dovetailing machine out here. It's wonderful. We're still trying to learn how to use it. It's going to be great when it works. When I learn how to use it, it does work. I've seen it work. It's custom built for us. It's just, if you want to do dovetails for drawers, it's going to be the thing to learn how to use. And then of course the lathes. There's a dovetailing machine. It sits in the window over there. It's mounted to the wall. So we offer classes for the beginners. Like I said, we have a 13-week series and then we have intermediate classes in joinery and design. We've got some very, very talented people on this island that come and teach us joinery and teach us design, just a vast breadth of knowledge that we will take advantage of. And they've taught classes a little bit at Rolling Bay, but we have the opportunity here to do some more advanced stuff. We have started boat building, obviously with the kayak, bowl turning. They've started working with pen classes and bowl turning over there. They had a spindle turning class yesterday afternoon. Which brings us to the fact that Barn is obviously made up of a whole bunch of studios. One of our goals that makes Barn great is cross-studio pollination. We can make little wood stands and they can put melted glass on it. We're going to be making some rolling pins for the people that are taking the bakery classes upstairs. Kel came down, who's a studio lead for kitchen this morning, and he brought his ice cream bucket. And he wants us to dissect that, teach a class in making ice cream buckets, and then the metal guys will help you make the metal parts for it, and they'll go upstairs and make you ice cream. So all good things. I mean, we're really starting to bring some things together where we're using all the interests from the other studios. So we have other systems in the building. So you'll see right here behind me and stationed all around the main studio, we have pneumatics so that we can blow things off and clean tools, but we can also run those 16 and 18 gauge pin nailers and so forth. That's what it looks like. You'll see these all around. They have moisture traps, oilers, and pressure regulators built onto them. Dust collection system, a 5-level system here in the building. We've got a main dust collection system that goes to a large hopper with 24 filters and a vortex system out there to collect the debris. Then we have ceiling filter fans. There's one right over here in the ceiling, and there's 6 in the main studio out there that come on to filter. We've got shop vacs and the Festool extractors, which have HEPA filters in them. We will have a downdraft sanding table so you can work on it, and it sucks the material right straight down into the table and filters it. So this is what we offer: N95 masks, paper masks, and then earmuffs, glasses, and goggles. Those are here for you to use, no charge. But if you're allergic to wood, to the dust, you need to take it a step further. So here Jamie has on her pressurized hood. It filters and it cleans her mask. This is something you need to provide. If you have a problem with dust from certain kinds of wood, and different people have different reactions and allergies, then you need to provide a different level of protection for yourself. We don't provide that for you. We just can't afford to do that. Phone system. So we've got phones obviously in this room and in the main room. It has a PA system on it so they can page from up above and talk to us if necessary. We have a very robust Wi-Fi system. It's very strong. It works throughout the building. The cellular system is strong here except in this room. Very weak in this room. As I found out today, you can change your phone over to the Wi-Fi and pick up the system in the building, and it works, and you get phone calls, so even in here. The building has a hydronic water system that heats the building. So you'll see radiators around on the walls. In many cases, we have cabinetry over the heaters. So you'll see along the side, you'll see vents in the bottom of the cabinets. And then behind the cabinets, you'll see a little raised plenum that sticks up like a backsplash, but it has a grill on top of it. And then you see the little yellow signs that say, don't place anything on the grills. That's our heat system. In the wintertime, so the air flows in the bottom, goes behind the cabinets, gets heated by the radiators, and flows out the grills from the top. So don't put your purses and your tools and your things that melt, your candy bars up there. We have a security system in the building. When you go through your safety classes and you're cleared to come into our studio and work, you're going to get a key fob, which lets you in the front door of the building from 7 a.m. to midnight. It lets you into the studio when we have open studio hours. We have a cable TV system in here, or a closed circuit system. And there's a camera right up here above to the left of the screen. And there's 2 out in the main studio. They're here for security, obviously. If we have an incident or an accident, we want to know what happened. But they're also here for youth and vulnerable adult protection. And Barn has a very robust program for that. If you are involved in classes where you're teaching or involved in youth camps, you will have to go through those training classes before you're allowed to participate. Key fob, little black thing on the wall there. Take your key fob and touch it, and the light turns green. You'll hear the door go click, and then you can push the door open and come in. So we have open studio hours. We're doing 30 hours a week. We've got a great cadre of monitors. We're doing 6 hours at a time. The monitors are here for 3 hours at a stretch. That's their shifts. The shop is closed on Mondays and Tuesdays. Monday mornings are set aside so that we can do maintenance on equipment. And you're welcome to come help, because that's how it gets maintained. We tune it up, we clean it, we repair it if necessary. If you see a machine on the floor that has a bright orange cloth over it, that means it's out of service and don't use it. It sounds silly, but we had to change to a really bright orange cloth because we were putting out of service signs on it, and people would take the sign off to see why it ran funny. Maintenance Mondays, like I say, 4 hours in the morning, and then, so the other half of Monday and then Tuesdays is so we can get classes in here on the floor. We don't run classes on top of open studio time. You're on the equipment, that's your time. We have classes, that's their time. The two don't mix. We try not to stack them on top of each other so that we're not disturbing people that are giving lectures on the lathes when there's a table saw running, because you can't do it. Dust collection systems running in the building and tools running, the ambient noise level in the shop is fairly high. We have over 50 monitors. They're here to provide a safe working environment. There will always be at least one monitor on the floor during open studio hours. They're up to date on safety equipment. They go through separate training to get on this list and to come in and monitor the floor. They're here for safety. They're not here as instructors. If you need instruction on a tool, you need to come to the safety classes. Now, if they're not busy and the shop only has 1 or 2 people in it, they'll take time to help you with some special training on something. But keep in mind, their focus is to watch the floor, and they're watching 3,500 square feet out here. It's a lot to keep an eye on, especially if they get 8, 9, 10 people working and they're all buzzing around. They need to keep their head up and looking and paying attention, and so they can't be instructing you necessarily on your project. They will give you advice, but they just can't lose their focus. They can't work on their computers, they can't read books, they can't study manuals at that time. They need to be helping and watching. That's what they look like. They wear a bright orange vest. You can see them anywhere on the floor. They're required to do that. They are the final authority. When a monitor commands you to stop, you're working, doing an operation on a machine, you are to stop immediately and find out what's got their attention. They have the absolute authority to suspend your privileges to work. If you repeat the bad behavior and you're becoming unsafe, they can ask you to stand down and please leave. That's not to be punitive with anybody, but the idea is we want you to be safe. We want our shop to be safe. If you have disagreement, you can come back to the shop monitor, to the shop manager and the studio lead, and we will discuss it with you. Our point is not to keep you from the shop, but to get you back working as soon as possible in a safe manner for everybody. So we have, like I say, we have a youth protection policy here at Barn. Background checks are done on people. Youth under 14 years are not allowed. We have a couple of exceptions because we have a teen camp, so we have some 13-year-olds that are getting ready to turn 14. Those are the ones that go through the high school shop classes, and so that's an age that we use the same as the school district. 14 years is pretty much the same throughout Barn for anybody working in here. Now, we do have younger kids that come in, and they come in a child and parent class to do hand tool work and some other projects. How is Barn managed? So there's a president and there's a board of directors. There's an executive director who's paid, he's upstairs. They have a small staff, 3 people. We have a marketing and financial team. They're all volunteers, as we are. Remember, barn was conceived, the $8 million was raised, and the building was built outside of the contract with PHC locally. But the management of the construction from our side, the outfitting and the building of this shop, the construction of 400 cases in casework in here and 6,000 man hours was all volunteers. It's all volunteer labor that makes this thing run, with the exception of that small staff upstairs. So the studio is run by a studio lead, a steering committee of 9 people, and then we have groups that run the different parts of the shop. So we have a curriculum group, we have a group that advises us on tools to purchase, a boat group, a lathe group, a cashier to handle the money, somebody who is in charge of our youth programs within the studio. We have a woodmaster, people that control the hand tools and what we buy for hand tools, and then we have a community service group. This studio participates in community service projects throughout the island and off island. We're getting ready to do one over in Polsbo. Somebody can come to us and they can say, hey, we need your help and we're willing to buy the material and can you help us do it? So if you go down and you see the nice Asian benches in the park at the Japanese Exclusion Memorial, those benches were built by our team last year. I believe it's over at the History Museum now, but there's a phone booth in there that was built a couple of years ago for folks to go in and record their memories on so that the history is not lost. We've built road-end benches around the island at the direction of the Park and Recreations. Again, they provide the material, we provide the labor and some of the design work, and then it gets done and gets placed. So if you want to give back, that's another way to do it. We do monthly programs, like I said. They're always the second Saturday of the month. In June, we did By Hand and Eye with Jim Tolpin. We had 70 people upstairs. It was wonderful. We have a boat program in October, and probably a large slab project with Dave Coates from Coyote Woodshop will come in and tell us how they acquire, prepare large slabs, and then how they get to you, and then what you do with them when you get them. It's a process. Past programs we've had on carving and finishing, boat restoration. We had a toy maker in here, wonderful guy, interesting stuff. Classes on hand tools, obviously cabinet making. Concepts in design by Matthew Curry. Kayak building, we've had lectures on youth programs, obviously the bench design like we talked about. So a couple questions have come up. Do we sell wood? Well, we have an agreement with Edensaw. You can get 10% off up at Edensaw on your wood. Woodcraft in Seattle will give you 10% off on some of their tools that they have over there and their wood. But we do have a cache of wood in the back. We have some kind of, I call them the Home Depot shelves, the big orange shelves in the back that has wood on it. We have been given some just extraordinary gifts of exotic woods. So we have a woodmaster, and he's in the process of inventorying that material, pricing it out, and it'll be available by the board foot. Unless it's the ebony, it's available by the pound. Was a question that came up, how do we determine the cost of classes? We start out with a baseline of about $15, I believe now, for the overhead for barn. It keeps the lights on and the water flowing. There's a material cost depending on what the project is involving in the class. There's an instructor fee, obviously. Now, some of our classes, the instructors are volunteering, and so there's no instructor fee, so we keep the cost down. Some of them we have to pay the instructors to come in. They're very talented people, and their level of knowledge is, they don't just give it away all the time, so there will be instructor's fees. That's how we determine, you'll see different pricing on the classes. If you're a member of barn, it doesn't cost you as much for the classes if you're a non-member of barn, a little bit more expensive if you're a non-member. Can you bring your own tools? Absolutely. You can bring your hand tools in, you can bring your lathe tools in. A lot of people carry their little bags around with them, canvas bags with their personal tools in them and their personal protection equipment. And they carry that in and out of the shop, and that's fine. And then project storage has been another question. So we have these 6 large assembly tables you'll see out in the main shop, and they have some storage capacity underneath them. We will eventually rent that space out for short term when you have a project. In the hallway outside, you'll see on the other side of this wall is a big alcove. We haven't built that in yet. Hopefully next winter, we're going to be providing locker space out there for projects for all the studios in barn, and they'll be able to rent space to put projects in. What we haven't solved is where you're going to store your boat you're restoring and how long you can keep it here. I'm sorry, we haven't solved that problem yet. We're actually working on a system to take the strip kayaks and actually lift them up and store them against the rafters, and then you can bring them down, you can work on them, and hoist them back up. And then large slabs. If you're working on a large slab project, that dining room table that's for the family forever takes up a lot of space. We haven't solved that problem yet. We're going to work on it. We're going to provide some solution for you. some length of term that works out for everybody, but we haven't got that yet. That's the end of the orientation. Any questions? We've had a gentleman who offered to teach on half-hull design for the people that have half-hull bolts design, and they put them up on their wall above their mantle if you got your yacht. We've made contact with a gentleman who wants to do a class on lofting, how they used to lay out the old sailboats and things like that. But then how to restore boats that are damaged. So we're working on all those things. We open at 7, and they actually have some special people that get to come in before 7. Those are the bakers that are going into the kitchen. Then they have the people that are here till midnight to get into the building until midnight, but they don't have to leave at midnight. Those are the guys in ETA, right? The guys that are soldering the little things together and the lights blinking on their heads. The electronic guys, they're really good at what they do, and they're very smart. They just keep different hours than we do. But our open studio hours are posted on a sign right outside the door for Wednesday through Sunday. And those open studio hours are for you to come in and work when we have a monitor here. We never, even if it's a Tuesday morning where we have some of our own people in here working on a project for barn because we're finishing up a couple of cabinets, and they come in and work in off open studio hours. They're never allowed to be in here alone. We never allow you on power equipment by yourself. Verboten, you can't do that. You always have to have another second person here. It's part of our safety protocol. And if it's open studio time and we're going to have a bunch of people, we have to have a monitor in here. But the problem with wood in Bainbridge, especially you go down and get it from Pro Lumber or some of these other, or Kingston Lumber, got a high water content. We have a moisture meter. You're going to want to stick it, make sure it's under 13%. It'll trip the saw stop. The saw stop will go off with moisture content, and it will go off with metallic. So no reclaimed wood, low moisture content, no metal, no metal tape on your wood like we did. We actually set off that saw stop module 3 times during construction, which lasted 6 months in here for the cabinets. But all that being said, with safety in here, we went through this entire construction of building this building and building all these boxes. We had 1 injury in here, and that was an electrician after the build who was here to check a problem we had, and he raised up under one of our air ducts and cut his head. It wasn't because of anything we were doing and not because of the main construction of the building. This thing was built with no injuries, nothing greater than a Band-Aid. So pretty good safety record. PHC is to be applauded for that, for what they did. All right, so those of you who haven't been able to get into your safety classes, keep banging away. We do for the small classes, we do 10 at a time. Tomorrow, I believe we're doing like 25 people in safety 2. We're bringing them all in here at one time, and we're going to spread them out. It's not as many tools. Doesn't take quite as long, so we can shove more people through that.
You have to do them in order?
No, you do not have to do them in order. You do them as you can get them.
Okay.
We originally started out thinking about doing them orientation 1 and 2, but it's just impractical with everybody's schedule and the huge response we've had from the community to get up and running in here. So we're just, you get this at some point and get one. If you get 1 under your belt, you can work on the bandsaw and the router and the table saw and so forth. You can get up and get running. And then 2 covers the wide belt sander and the big planer and some other things like that you might need occasionally, but not all the time. So, our object is to get you in here and get you working and take advantage of your membership as soon as possible. And remember, your membership is good for all the studios. Other studios have orientations and have their own safety policies. The studios operate independently under the barn umbrella, so you're going to see a little bit different rules and procedures in other studios, so it's not all the same. All right, thank you very much.